Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, Second Amendment advocacy, you name it. We're talking about right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can know what you're getting into this morning. Also, please take a moment and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Also on Facebook, please make sure you hit the notification button so that you can know when we're going live, so that you can join us as a part of the conversation as it's going on. Also, if you want to listen to us, you can just listen to the audio version of this program via Apple iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it, various different ways to listen to the program. So please make sure to tune in. All right. Also, once again, FPCgear.com, FPCgear.com. It is a cool place to go to get all sorts of cool Second Amendment, pro-Second Amendment stuff, that is. T-shirts, mugs, hats. I mean, you name it, we've got them there. Pro-Second Amendment stuff. So please make sure to go there. Know that every dollar that you spend there will, it'll go right back into the fight for a right to keep and bear arms. So, you can support the Second Amendment. You can look good doing it. That's FPCgear.com. All right. So, there's a lot of things going on right now nationally. Obviously, state legislatures and Congress are all introducing legislation in order to take away our rights and all of that. And one of the things that's starting to happen is we're starting to see even national figures are starting to get a little bit more bombastic when it comes to their opposition to our right to keep and bear arms. One such figure would be Nancy Pelosi. You know her, Miss Speaker Pelosi. Anyway, Speaker Pelosi decided the other day to take a swipe at gun owners. And here's how. One of the things you guys know that the President of the United States actually announced that there was a national state of emergency. There's a national state of emergency relating to the crisis that's taking place at the border. And in her opposition to that, Nancy Pelosi decided that she would have a few choice words for the president and say, well, you know what, there are other things that other presidents of other philosophies or other thought processes, there are other states of emergency that we might see a future president claim.
This was a reaction to the president's decision to declare a national emergency.
You want to talk about a national emergency? Let's talk about today, the one-year anniversary of another manifestation of the epidemic of gun violence in America. That's a national emergency. Why don't you declare that emergency, Mr. President? I wish you would.
And now, when she said that she wished that he would, her whole point was, what would happen if another president, a future president, decided that that's how they were going to declare it? And that, she believes, or as she has stated, is the, that is the camel's nose under the tent. The precedent that is set by the President of these United States when it comes to setting a national emergency in order to usurp the will of Congress. Now, mind you, this is one of the things that they're talking about here has to do with the power of the purse, which, by the way, does happen to rest with the Congress. The president is seeking to do this in order to obtain or seeking to be able to redirect certain funds in order to be able to build the border wall as they're talking about. In this case, now whether or not you agree with it, the question is, how does that then apply to gun rights? How does the president, by declaring a national state of emergency, what are the things that she believes that a president would do or be able to do in order to get around law or statute as put forth by the legislative branch? What are the things that she believes could potentially happen that they could possibly do? What monies could she be looking to move around in order to try and take away our right to keep and bear arms? Because that's really what we're talking about here. What she's talking about is taking away or reducing our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. But one raises a lot of questions in terms of what exactly it is that she would be looking to do. Now, mind you, Congress has actually, or at least the House of Representatives actually has voted to overturn the president's declaration of a national emergency. That measure's been passed by the House and now will go on to the Senate. Chances are it won't pass the Senate, but it's important to understand that there are a number of people who also, by the way, are worried about this precedent that the president set. People on the Republican side, in the majority party that is running the Senate. So there are people who are worried about the precedent that it sets. But with that, even if it were to pass there, then it would go to the president who would veto it. And judging by the numbers, in terms of how it was voted on in the House, there are 2/3 in the House of Representatives. There's not a 2/3 majority to overturn the president's veto. So chances are, nothing is going to happen with this. But you are likely going to see some legal action. You're going to see this. You're going to see this go to court. And you're going to see, you've already got a number of states, all, liberal-leaning, anti-gun, by the way, states largely, states attorneys general who have filed against this particular measure. And their whole thing is, first of all, they're doing it on behalf of Congress. Go figure, I don't know what that has to do with anything. But, they figure that, I guess they figure they can get their names in the newspaper by suing Trump once again. But I wanted to go back to this whole idea of there being a national emergency when it comes to gun violence. Now, mind you, the statistics are pretty clear. And if you look at this graph that I'm sharing with you here, unfortunately, this only goes up to 2014. But if you notice right here, it's kind of very clear that as the number of firearms per person has gone up over the last 20 years or so, you notice that the number of firearms owned per person has gone up, has increased dramatically. Yet the firearm homicide rate has gone down significantly over that same period of time. Now, I can tell you that in the state of California, we've seen a similar thing, although the last few years we've actually seen an uptick when it comes to the firearm homicide rate and when it comes to violent crimes relating to firearms. But that more has to do with, now mind you, that more has to do with the fact that, we've passed a number of laws over the last few years letting criminals, including violent criminals, out of prison. See, that's the thing. They always want to talk about how, there's an epidemic of gun violence. But in the end, what we're finding is gun violence has actually gone down. They say, there's been an epidemic of mass shootings. Well, the number of even the number of deaths relating to mass shootings is, first of all, an infinitesimal amount, percentage of those who die from gun violence. Overall gun violence, the number of people involved in mass shootings is a very, 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 very small percentage. So I think that's the first thing that we need to note. So when we talk about taking away the rights of a huge group of people, it's all in order to, in their eyes, reduce the number of people affected by this percentage of people that are actually affected. But even with that, what we've seen over the last 20 years is a proliferation, in particular over the last 5 years. This is what's early. So it's been particular over the last 5 years, we've seen a dramatic increase in the amount of regulation, of anti-gun regulation in the state of California. But yet at the same time, in the last 3 years, we've seen increase in violent crimes, increase in homicide and in firearm incidents. And why is that? Because gun laws haven't gotten any more lenient. No, what's happened is those laws affecting criminals have actually gotten more lenient. We're now letting criminals out on the street. We've taken things that used to be felonies and now we're calling them misdemeanors, right? We're letting people out on what should be considered violent crimes. And we're saying, no, those are not violent crimes. And then we're moving some of the people from state prison to county jail, and then we're moving them from county jail out onto our streets, out into communities where they're turning around and they're committing crime. And yet somehow, God forbid, there is a national emergency relating to gun violence. How about this, Speaker Pelosi? Maybe the issue is not gun violence. Maybe the issue is criminals. And the fact that you and your party are advocating for putting criminals on the street. Now, you want to declare that as a state of emergency? Go right ahead. impede on the ability of some of these legislatures to allow criminals out on our streets. You know, it's funny. Just the other day, the legislature or the Congress decided that they would not allow. They fought against the idea of allowing people to be ICE to be notified when an illegal immigrant fails a background check. So an illegal immigrant goes to buy a gun. They've committed a crime, but at the same time, you don't want ICE to be notified that someone who is in this country illegally attempted to purchase a gun illegally. But you say you're all for getting the criminals out. No, you're not. No, you're not at all. You're not in favor of it at all. And your policies reveal themselves. So, Ms. Pelosi, go right ahead. I double dog dare the next president to try and announce a national emergency relating to gun violence and utilize the executive power to usurp the power of the people in the legislature and Congress in order to enact some sort of inane, unconstitutional gun control laws. I dare you. I double dare you. But making statements like that, you increase the likelihood that you're not going to have a member of your party representing or sitting in the White House anytime soon. So you just keep right on talking about violating the Constitution, talk about violating separation of powers, talk about violating people's constitutional rights, talk about taking from those who've earned in order to give to those who haven't. Continue to talk about letting criminals out on our streets while locking up law-abiding citizens. Continue to talk about allowing those who've entered our country illegally to be able to illegally try to purchase firearms while at the same time locking up law-abiding citizens for owning firearms or owning property that is safe and in legal use. Continue to do so, because you will do nothing more than reveal exactly who you are. And I got to have a little bit of faith in my people, in the people of these United States, to know that when confronted with liberty and tyranny, I got to believe they're going to choose liberty. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. I thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you so much for liking and sharing this program, telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.